Very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for yet another uLaw webinar. Today's topic is integrated payment collection. We're going to be talking about how easy and seamless it is to collect payments. As legal professionals, you go about your day-to-day business in doing your work. I think you do not want to add yet another headache to that mix of being able to collect payments. So we're going to be talking about different facets and ways in which we enable our legal friends to collect payments, some of the industry trends, and how you as a legal professional are now enabled by technology to make lives easier for yourself. Just as a quick housekeeping, I do appreciate if you could dial in to the number provided. If you're listening to this, then you probably already are. This session is going to be recorded and available. Also, I want to make sure that you understand that this webinar is not accredited for CPD, but it's going to be informational and it's going to be a lot of fun, but it's definitely not accredited for CPD. But we do have a session coming up next week, which is accredited for CPD, which focuses on financial accounting. So today I'm going to be talking, as you can see the agenda, I have things to talk about such as what value does a payment integration bring into your business? I mentioned that earlier a little bit. How can it streamline the most important aspect of your business, which is getting paid? Obviously, we all deserve our due diligence. Some of the key players, what we spoke about technology and how that's enabling legal professionals to collect those payments faster. So we talk about technology, some of the key players in Canada specifically, you would have Moneris, you have a lot of the financial institutions, and then we work closely with one of our partners by the name Pivotal Payments. All these players in the market today allow you to be compliant by segregating trust and general in separate ways. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about how they do that, what you as a legal professional should be asking for when you set up your payment gateway accounts with these institutions. And then you do have the quick and easy Square, but again, mind you, that's a due diligence that you would have to do. Square would not necessarily manage trust and general separately. If you do see a charge on your trust, that's a bit of a headache on your head to ensure that you're moving money back and forth from trust to general. But Moneris, Pivotal, and many of the other Canadian financial institutions do separate them out. So if there is a charge on the payment, then that would come out of your general account and not on your trust account. How easy it is to set up and integrate with your choice of these institutions with uLaw is going to be another highlight of today's webinar. We're going to be talking about how easy it is to docket as well as get payments for those dockets. Okay. What are the pros of integrated payment solutions? So we spoke briefly about technology and how it's enabling legal professionals. The first and foremost important would be getting paid faster. And second most importantly would be getting paid accurately. So you want to make sure that when an invoice is sent out, that your client knows exactly what they're paying and what it's being paid for, and have an easy mechanism to pay it, because then that way you're collecting that money faster and accurately. It's cost effective and convenient. If you're still collecting checks, our friends realize what a bounce check can do to their day-to-day lives. It's putting extra time for them to go and manage that bounce check. There are charges sometimes at banks for those types of things, and it's obviously the hassle of having to go back to a client to get for that new payment. So it is cost effective and very convenient to be able to collect payments online through these credit card processing and online processing institutions. It is an anytime and anywhere access. So if you're collecting payments, you can do that today or a mobile device. You don't have to be in your office. If you do meet your client and if he owes you money, then you can collect that right away. And these institutions that we're integrating with do accept major credit cards. So be it MasterCard, Visa, American Express, you do have that flexibility that you could give your clients so that they can pay in any way that they like. And as I mentioned, when you have that segregation between trust and general, it just becomes that much more easier for you to manage your funds because then you're not dealing with bank charges across multiple trust or general banks, which you probably shouldn't to begin with. And as I mentioned, you're not waiting for check bounces to be cleared and so on and so forth. Today, uLawPractice integrates with Pivotal Payments and Moneris. Both these institutions manage trust and general separately. They allow you to manage your own secret key for both these accounts. They allow you to have your own terminal ID, that way differentiating your trust terminal ID from your general, and having their own secret keys. That way, it's secure and it's tokenized, which is very important. uLaw also streamlines the workflow of how you accept payments. So if you're accepting a retainer, then you're accepting funds through a credit card, in this case, into your trust account. If you're accepting a client payment for what the client owes, then you're accepting those funds again through this credit card payment, but now into your general account. And what Pivotal or Moneris or any other institution that segregates these accounts would do is they would, ding you on your charges directly on your general account, leaving your trust untouched. And again, by going through a credit card process, you do, you are ensured that the funds are available and approved, because if for some reason the credit card that the client uses does not have sufficient funds, then you are going to get an error message that would then prompt you to ask your client for another credit card that they could use for those payments. After I run through my slides, I'm going to obviously take you through a demonstration within uLaw that illustrates how you would integrate either Moneris or Pivotal within our settings. It's a simple 3-step or 2-step process within uLaw. For those who use uLaw, it becomes much more easier as it's part of your settings. And I can show you the difference that you would see between having an integrated payment versus not having one if you don't have one today. And for any legal professionals who do not use uLaw today, I highly encourage you to visit our website and take our 30-day trial. We are doing some cool and exciting things with regards to legal tech, and we'd love to serve you in any way possible. I'm going to try and skip the screenshot and really get into the demo, but just to give an example, it's within the settings tab and within accounts that you go and pretty much set up your trust and general terminal IDs and provide its appropriate secret keys. And this would be provided to you when you register as a legal professional with either Moneris or Pivotal. When you approach them, you would obviously want to approach them as a legal professional. You want to explain to them that you do accept, if you do, accept funds separately in trust in general, and they would know how they would need to set up a payment process for a legal professional. Again, continuing with our thought process on what are the benefits of an integrated payment processing, we did speak about it being faster, convenient, but not to forget that it's flexible and efficient, but it's also secure and cost-effective. It's secure because just like how uLaw is 256-bit encrypted, just like your bank-grade security, so are these online payment gateways. They are 256-bit encrypted. They're HTTPS, and the fact that they're tokenized gives you that extra layer of security and protection. And from a cost perspective, obviously, it would be, we could give you these different options, but various institutions provide various percentages. Some of them may ask you for a minimal balance but I know there are some other institutions like Pivotal that are more open to negotiation and being a partner with a lot of our clients. And we could provide, after this webinar, a brief introduction to our partner at Pivotal, or provide some information so that you can go out there, do the research, your due diligence, understand and negotiate for the best rate between institutions before you sign up with one. And we're continuing to expand who we integrate with as well, and I'll show that to you real quick after these slides. So our roadmap extends to end of this year to now integrate not only with Monaris, Pivotal, but then extend that to other institutions in Canada. We have reached out to TD. They have a great program that allows you to do very similar things that Monaris and Pivotal do. And then this screenshot obviously talks a little bit more about how you would accept payments for various workflows within uLaw, whether it's a retainer, whether it's a client payment. And a very new feature within uLaw, which is cool and exciting, is if there is a client owed money, there's amount due over and above a retainer, we now have integrated a link within your invoice which will allow your client to self-serve and take them through a secure site where they could pay it at their own time and convenience. And we then notify you of that payment being processed. So that way you're always on top, not only on your matters, but on your payments too. And I'll show you that in just a minute. So not only do we now accept credit card payments in the office, so if you're in the office, if you're in front of uLaw, you could collect these payments by going through your workflow. But a new feature within uLaw now enables your end clients to make those payments by just clicking that link that you see on the invoice, and then you being notified when that payment goes through. As I mentioned, we are in partnership with Pivotal Payments. They do offer uLaw clients a better rate for credit card processing rates that you would probably come across with various other institutions. There is a contact just to make the whole relationship and transaction seamless, and we'll be happy to share that information with you after the webinar as well. And for those who are just joining, just a quick summary of my housekeeping. This is the webinar on integrated payments. It's not accredited for CPD, so it's a cool and jazzy uLaw webinar where I get to talk and show you the cool stuff we're doing, both from a uLaw perspective, but also from a legal tech perspective, the options that you have as a legal professional today to maximize what technology can do for you. We do have a CPD accredited webinar coming up next week on financial accounting, but I hope you would stay. The roadmap. So before I jump into the actual demo and then walk you through some cool functionalities, just looking at the roadmap looking forward, we are working towards integrating on our app. So hopefully by end of this month, we should have the iOS app releasing for uLaw, and we're looking by end of fall to bring in your payments as well within the app. So how cool would it be if you're actually in the court, if you have to take a payment, and you can do that on your phone. We're going to be doing that on both the leading platforms, iOS and Android. We're also, as I mentioned, looking to integrate with other institutions that can make it better for our clients. So today we integrate with Monaris and Pivotal Payments, but in the future we're looking to integrate with other financial institutions in Canada. And we are exploring other opportunities to cut costs for our clients in doing that. And I'm going to show you another very forward-thinking feature that we're working on is also the automated ledgering. So how cool would it be if when the client makes the payment, a self-payment or sort of self-serve portal, but that automatically ledgering within uLaw for you. So that's coming down the pipe by end of fall. So I'm going to stop the slideshow, more of a demo personnel. Again, for those who are using uLaw, this is and are not maximizing the integration with the payment processing, Hopefully this enables you to be more efficient, cost effective, and more enabled with tech. And if there are other legal professionals listening to this webinar who are exploring practice management software, we would love for you to explore what uLaw can offer you. And you would do that by going to uLawPractice.com, and we do have a free 30-day sign up. Okay, that's so much from the advertisement perspective. So I'm now in uLaw. I say I love more of our clients log in. So I'm right now logged in into our Playground account, and I'm using my favorite Roger Moore or uLawPractice account. What I'm going to try and do in the next couple of minutes is let's walk through a simple workflow real quick. Let's add a client. So for which you would go into contacts, you would hit new contact, and let's say my favorite Batman character. I don't know why I put John, but I just love that name. So I'm going to just go save in matter. I'm actually creating a matter. I'm not doing a lot of the Law Society documents today for the purpose of this webinar. I'm going to try and keep it straight and simple. So I'm going to create a quick matter, give it a title, but the only mandatory field in uLaw associated with various areas of practice which are configurable based on your firm's areas of practice. Probably going to say small claims. It could be anything. It could be personal injury, in which case would probably be appropriate for Batman vs. Superman. It could be accident benefits. It could be family law. It could be any of the areas of practice that you focus on. Now that I've created a contact and I've created a matter or a client, and then I've created a quick matter for that client, let me quickly take you into settings. Let's talk about what life would be when you do not have this payment collection integration. So where I am right now is within my settings. I'm on the Accounts tab, and right at the bottom you see these 5 options. Payment collection to tell us which payment collection or institution you're working with once you've signed up with either Pivotal or Moneris. Both Pivotal and Moneris would provide you with your own trust terminal ID, or they call it store ID, as well as a trust account secret key or HPP key, and the nomenclature might differ with each institution. But as you can see, they do provide you with your own trust and your own general ID and secret key. Okay, so let me start off with this being your situation today, where you're not integrated with any payment gateway or payment collection institutions. And let me jump back to that matter. So let's say in the ideal case you were entertaining this client, and this client were now to provide you with a retainer. So let's say you've gone through your document generation and you've generated all of the Law Society documents, you've generated a retainer letter, and you agreed upon, let's say, a $500 retainer. Without the payment integration today, what you would do in uLaw is come into retainer, hit on new retainer. You've got to notice that there is no option at this time, bottom right, for accepting credit card payments. So what you would do is you would accept payment in any shape or form. Maybe there was a check that was provided, but if this was a credit card, then you would transact that credit card outside of uLaw, and then you would just tell us what that amount is, or the reference number is, and what that amount is. Okay, so you do not see that integration yet. But let me go back into uLaw and now turn on those settings. So let me choose Pivotal, and I'm using our test account that's used by the vendors so that it's easier for us to demonstrate this. So again, this is a test account, a fake account. I'm going to put in a fake name, a fake credit card number. But in the real world, when you are provided with your own terminal and trust, and you can set your own keys, both Moneris and Pivotal will provide you with a portal where you can manage that. Now, if you were to go accept your retainer, and let's say it's for that same amount, you are going to see this new button called Payment Collection. Let me go ahead and click that. Now, this is, I guess, the integration with the workflow and ensuring that the funds are collected in the appropriate channel. As you can see, this was a retainer. So you clicked on the retainer button with the uLaw, and we know in uLaw that money would now go into trust. And it does validate your order ID as well as your trust terminal ID for that amount of $500. So it knows exactly that you've differentiated your source and where the funds need to go. And then you're prompted with this payment methodology where you can pick and choose what the card number is. So let's say we're accepting a retainer of $500, and that's my super secret credit card. And I'm going to say John Batman. As you can see, in the real life, it would be pretty much the same screen, but it would be real numbers and real trust and general IDs. Voila. So once I've gone through it, you know right then and there that that credit card is now approved for that $500, and the money would now be sitting in the trust. You would have received that money, $500. So there's no waiting for receiving a check, putting in the bank for it to clear, reconciling, and all those things. And what we recommend is taking that unique reference ID that we provide. Let's copy that, close, go into uLaw, quickly mention that it's a credit card, put the reference number in, give the guy a receipt, and there you go. That's your $500 in retainer for that matter. And that's your receipt right there. Okay? So we've now shown you one simple way in which you can accept a credit card to take in a retainer, but also ensure that the charges for that amount, so let's say it was a 2% charge that Moneris were to charge you or Pivotal were to charge you, then the 2% of that $500 would be taken out of your general and not of your trust account. Now let's go one step further. Let's put some dockets. Initial client meeting. Let's say this was a flat rate of $200. Batman. And as I dock it, as you probably know, you're going to notice that the projected balance will come down based on the $226 that have been charged. There is an invoice pending for this matter, so let's go ahead and generate an invoice. To do that, I would click on Document Generation, Invoice, Complete. I am a big fan of the uLaw theme, but as you probably know, we do offer various themes, and we're continuing to add to these different invoice themes. Let me leave it as a uLaw theme. Let me hit Invoice. And as you know, it's a 2-button click process. I'll hit Download, and I'll show you the invoice. There's kind of a method to the madness in which I'm taking you through this demo. So as you see in this invoice, this was a retainer. There's already money sitting in retainer, so you probably could have said this is paid. There's still a balance in trust. So the client technically does not owe you anything at this time because he's already paid your retainer and you're actually drawing from that retainer. But this is an official document to let him know that you're actually going to be withdrawing that $226 that's your money earned, right? So that's when the money is now moving from trust to general. So it does tell him about that credit card in the retainer, which you then took from that integration with Pivotal. And you could have ideally marked this as paid. And this is a simple invoice in uLaw. And you're going to notice that there are no links for the client to make a self-serve payment at this time because there's really no payment to be made. So let me go back into uLaw. As you know, I'll hit the question mark. We'll hit the transfer button because that allows you to move money from trust to general. And it's only allowing you to move the money that you're eligible. in Ontario, if you do an electronic fund transfer, as you know, we do automate fill in your Form 9A. You put in your debit account, which is really your general, and then once you type it one time, it remembers the next time. And your credit account, in this case, for Form 9A, is always your trust account. Provide the number, and you hit download. That's taken care of from a compliance perspective. And the point I'm trying to make is the workflow remains to be the same. The only thing we've introduced is the convenience of accepting that payment, whether it's for a retainer or for a general payment, client payment, integrated it seamlessly into that workflow. Okay, so let me then go ahead and add furthermore dockets, or I could be doing disbursements. But just to kind of keep it simple to the point, I'm going to add another second meeting. In this case, let me add a flat rate that's slightly above the projected balance. So let me say $350. Let me just mark this docket as a second client meeting. And this would apply if you were to add disbursements in uLaw, whether predominantly coming from your general. Can it be the same concept? Now you're going to notice that the client owes you $121.50 over and about that initial $500 retainer. That's because you've put in close to $621 worth of effort with HST, again, depending on the jurisdiction. Now that the uLaw knows that this matter and the client owes you over and above the retainer, let's look at how it deals with the invoice now differently. Same process, you would hit the document generation, invoice, complete, and as you probably know, you could always pre-bill to ensure that it's the right amount and you've docketed right. So let's now hit this invoice, and we'll kind of show you how we've kind of taken that integration to the next level. Here's my second invoice to John Batman. The first one was money moving from trust to general with the Form 9A that I filled out. And the second talks about the second client meeting for a flat rate of $350 plus tax. That was that initial retainer that was received. And in this case, we know that there's an amount due of $121.50. And automatically, you see this new link within the invoice, which we have kind of copy-pasted really. So if you were to really compare the two invoices, this was the invoice with a retainer balance in trust with that link not being available. And here's the second invoice where it's an amount due and the link being available for the client. And you would then send this invoice via email or in an electronic format, and all the client would have to do is click that link. Again, this is a test account that I'm using for the purposes of this demo, but you can clearly see that this is a HTTPS test payments for Global One, and that's because I have in my settings set this up for Pivotal. If I were to do it for Moneris, it would be the same process. So the client would now make a payment for that $121.50 that they owe you. So let me do that on behalf of John Batman, assuming that John Batman received that invoice. He clicked the link, and then he's taken to this online payment gateway. Kind of looks very similar to what we looked at when we were accepting that retainer. And let's say John, at his own leisure, makes that payment to you. Now, he is obviously going to receive this note. He's going to receive this note saying, this is the reference number, this is the order ID, and a unique reference has been created. And John could potentially save this for his own copy, but an email is also sent to the lawyer or the legal professional involved. As soon as John has made that payment, we also send an email to you, and this email would be pretty much the same email that's used under your details for your work email. So it's at this stage it's sales. That's why I have got this email. But this email clearly indicates to you that your client has made that payment of $121.50, and here is the approval or unique reference ID. Today, what you would have to do is take that. All you have to do is go into your client payment, or even better, hit the question mark, because that's your friend. So not only can you move that 274 into trust, let's do that real quick. And again, as you can see, it's an amount for $395. Following uLaw's compliance, it only allows you to move what you're eligible for. I'm going to do a quick check payment this time. I move my money from my trust account and my general account, and that kind of takes care of trust. There is still that $121.50 that he paid you, and from a bookkeeping software perspective, it would be ideal, to come into uLaw and tell us when and how that payment was done. So if this was paid, a couple of days later, you could have come in here and put the date. Credit card, and that's a transaction. So more than having to intake the credit card information into uLaw, you could actually allow your client to self-serve and provide you just with the unique reference number, which you can bring it into uLaw. And what's important to note, whether that's a retainer or whether that's a general payment into client, the workflow within uLaw remains to be the same. And I'll show you what we mean by that. When I click that question mark, you're gonna notice that we do offer to show you the ledgers right then and there. And when I click on my general ledger, you're gonna notice that it's as compliant with the Law Society. It talks about each and every payment that was collected for that client. So here is that final credit card payment that was made for $121.50 through that credit card, through that reference number, or a self-serve payment that John did at his leisure. Okay. Very similarly, you have total trust compliance with the trust. Here's that credit card transaction when we accepted the credit card within uLaw, assuming that you were in your office. And the whole integration with email not only provides you a sense of security, but also convenience that you know if the client has made a payment towards an invoice as soon as it's done. So this has the terminal ID, the actual amount. It also has the file number and the client name and for who that payment was done. So all that information is available. And as you probably know, every time you do raise an invoice, we do send another email indicating that invoice number. Okay, so right through the workflow, and this is how we've integrated with Pivotal and Moneris, and pretty much the same concept. If you currently do have Moneris, all you have to do is you have to come in here, change this to Moneris. I'm going to change it to test account. They do provide you with store IDs. I think that's the terminology or nomenclature. You can provide us your trust terminal ID. As you can notice, these two are different. The terminal IDs and general terminal IDs and trust are different. You could set up your own key, provide us what that key is, save it, and just like how we worked with Pivotal, it would pretty much work the same with Moneris. So let's say you're accepting a new retainer for another $200 from the same client. Let's validate the fields. You're going to notice the screen just changed, and that's their HTML view of how they accept payments. Same concept, you'd say John Batman. Be a credit card number you can process with an expiry date. And in this case, you would hit process transaction. It'd go in, says transaction approved, right then and there. You could take this, obviously is a much longer reference number compared to the pivotal, and you would pretty much do the same thing. Put in what that reference number is, provide them a receipt, and hit apply. So by integrating with Moneris as well as with Pivotal, what we've enabled is the convenience for you to accept these payments as a part of your uLaw workflow, and we've extended the capability beyond you accepting it in your office and entering that information. We've extended the capability for your clients to pay at their own leisure, at their own time, and in their own way by integrating the link with the invoice and also notifying you when that payment is done, so that it's then easier for you to record that payment. And as I mentioned, the roadmap is once that payment is done, instead of you having to copy and paste that unique reference number, we're going to be able to automatically ledger that on your behalf, or leave you with a parking place where you come and quickly verify all the online payments that have been made for that day or that week, and then for you to easily transact and process those payments that have been made. And the important point to note at the end of the day is the ledgering itself, the compliance that there is with regards to keeping your trust money untouched, and that's what the online payment transaction companies would actually do by keeping your trust and general separate. And that's very important because we've had many clients, even if you were to do it on your own, even if you had Moneris today, and if it's not integrated with the workflow, you are prone to making those errors. You may use the different terminal ID by mistake and then put that money into your general instead of having to go into trust. So by relying on a workflow that's determined by a software such as uLaw that's compliant with Law Society guidelines, you know that you can go in to accept client payment, and that money goes into general by following the workflow. So when I hit client payment, I know that this money is going into general. And when I hit retainer, I know that money is going to my trust. And you would then determine those accounts. Obviously, the trust and general will be set up within your settings, whether that's the pool trust account or whether that's your general ID. As soon as you've set up your initial Moneris or your pivotal payment, it is a good practice for you to just test it out, ensure that the integration is working. And for that, we've added a cool feature where you could come in and hit payment collection trust. Once you've set up the new store ID as well as your key within the settings tab of uLaw, you could come into the accounts section. You do not have to transact large numbers. You could just do a 1 cent validation, and you can try that out. You can try how easy it is to collect the payment, and you can also test it out that way before you start accepting payments from your clients. So we've brought that convenience too as a way for you to test the ground before you get started. So for which you would go into accounts, action, payment collection. As you can notice, depending on which bank account you choose, the terminal IDs would be different. And you could do the same thing for your general as well. Just to wrap things up and to reiterate what we've covered for the day, the purpose of today's presentation, or the agenda rather, was to talk about kind of the value of that integrated payment integration for your business, the ease of use, the convenience, and also the accuracy of the action amount that gets paid and how fast that can be paid by retaining the compliance factors. We spoke about some of the key players from a technology perspective who are enabling this. We've started off by integrating with Moneris and Pivotal Payments, and we're going to continue extending that list of institutions that we work with. We quickly walk through how uLaw manages both trust and general in a compliant way, even when with regards to the payment. So your credit card process for trust goes in your trust account, and it would be the same for general. We did quickly cover how easy it was. So you did notice that it was as easy as a minute's quick entry, not less than a minute, for you to transact a payment. We've obviously heard from a lot of our friends who use our software and other legal professionals about the challenges of having to accept payments as checks, especially as checks, because those are some of the areas where they are prone to be bounced if there are no insufficient funds, and you may be charged for you may have to go through the whole hassle of having to go to the bank, deposit, understanding it's bounced and all of that. So this just makes it easier. And if that credit card bounced, you're obviously going to ask them for a new credit card. And there's two ways, again, both for Pivotal and Moneris. For Moneris, I think you would have to go to moneris.com. You are able to go online. Specifically mention that you are a legal professional, because the rules that govern how you manage your funds are slightly different from other businesses. So do mention that you are a legal professional, and they would provide you or associated with the right representative within those institutions. We do have a specific rep within Pivotal who is able to help our clients get started right away. Do negotiate for the best rates with these institutions, because at the end of the day, it's your money. It is convenient, it is fast, but there is a minimal cost that's associated with that convenience and time to market. So do negotiate well with these institutions to get the best bang for your buck. But once you've done that, they would provide you, as I said, a login, a portal that allows you to manage their end of the business as well. That's where you would go in and create your own secret keys, and do ensure that you do not share that with anyone. You do protect that, and we did share this in our last webinar. What we're seeing today is a good thumb rule for passwords or secret keys is to go with a phrase that you would remember instead of it being a word or your pet's name or your child's name. If you've ever been to Paris and if you love the experience, you may want to create a phrase which says, "I loved Paris in 2015." That's just coming from my personal experience. But, if you could create your own phrases, that would be a great way for you to remember those secret keys and passwords as well. Once you set that up, you would obviously come into uLaw, go into our settings, choose, depending on which institution you're working with, whether it's Moneris or Pivotal. You would choose not the test account, but the ones that say Moneris or Pivotal. Provide the exact terminal ID and general terminal ID and the secret keys. You would hit the Save button. And before you get started with transacting with any accounts, if you needed that extra step to ensure that it's connected well, you could hit on Accounts, go into Payment Collection, and as I mentioned real quick, you can go into those individual IDs and then put a 1 cent transaction and then ensure that it's transacting well. You would obviously log into Moneris and Pivotal to see that 0.1 cent has worked. And then you would create your client, add a matter, and you would start collecting payments, whether that's a retainer or a client payment within uLaw, just like how you would do it. You would hit New Retainer. Once you've integrated it, you do see that button called Payment Collection that gets enabled when you put an amount in and you tab out. You do see that amount. So that's how you would transact a retainer. You would take the client's credit card information and process transaction. It would give you a unique reference ID, and you would input it and move on. And I know I've kind of gone fast with this. It's about I intended to spend maybe another 5 minutes, but I do have 15 minutes Q&A if there are any specific questions, so I will open the floor for any Q&A. Please do use the chat window to ask any questions that you may have. As again, just reiterating that this session is not accredited for CPD, but we will be sharing the recording of this webinar with all our friends today who have joined us. Please do send us a quick email at support@uLawPractice.com that you did attend. You're not going to get the CPD, but at least we can send you a copy of today's recorded webinar. So we would sincerely appreciate if you could, we would appreciate if you could send us a quick email. And if there are any comments that can make us do these webinars better, that would be much appreciated as well. So with that, I would now open the floors in the chat window for you to ask any questions that you may have. If you are new to uLaw, I would like to request that you give uLawPractice.com. We do offer a free trial, and do check us out online at uLawPractice.com, and do check us out on our LinkedIn. You do connect with uLaw both on LinkedIn as well as Twitter. One question that I do have from on my email right here. Let me just pause this. Don't want to make sure that I'm not sharing this information. How do we integrate with Moneris? That's a good question. What we do offer is, again, both with Moneris, with Pivotal, we don't necessarily set you up with these accounts. With Pivotal, obviously, we're able to provide you with the contact that you can talk to. Her name is Nadine, and she's been very helpful with our clients. So her contact information, we could send this after this demonstration to you. But for Moneris, you kind of have to do your research. I'm assuming you would go to the web, Google Moneris, or we could find out who that is and maybe send you an email. But ideally, our clients do their own research for Moneris. If you are interested in any payment gateway, we do have Pivotal Payments as an option with specific information about who you can contact within Pivotal. What other banks are we going to be integrating with? We're starting off with TD. We do have a contact. We're starting to get started with integrating with TD, but then obviously we'll be extending that to the other financial institutions that love the compliance factor that legal professionals need. Again, as I said, segregating general and trust separately, because it is a bit of a headache if you did not have that separation, as you can appreciate. Okay, and I'm checking this on my phone as I receive these questions. What is the cost associated with integrating with the payment collection? That's a good question. There is no direct cost for uLaw. There is no additional module that you have to purchase from uLaw. You pretty much log into uLaw just like anything else. And once you've set up with Moneris or Pivotal, you come in here and you provide the information. but the cost that is associated is with Moneris or Pivotal themselves. So depending on the percentage charge that you agreed upon with them, they would charge you, 1.5 or 2% or 3% on the transactions. Some of them are based on volume. Some of them are based on the amount. So again, that's where I mentioned it would be ideal for you to ensure you negotiate the best deal, talk to a few institutions, figure out what's best for you as a firm. And so let's say there was $1,000 and it was 2%, then obviously you end up paying the $20 for every transaction. That will be the cost associated with that convenience. With uLaw, there is no cost associated with that. I'm going to open up if there's any more questions. So I think, if there aren't any more questions, I would like to wrap up the webinar today. Definitely want to thank you for taking your time and participating in our webinar today. If there are any further questions, please feel free to send us an email at support@uLawPractice.com, and we do offer a free 30-day trial sign-up with those who are just exploring practice management and legal accounting. Do give us a shout. Thank you very much, and have yourself a fantastic weekend.